third interview of Inside the Business of Design with Mark Ferguson tonight. This program was conceived to bring you a behind-the-scenes look at the design profession through some of the top designers in the country. Before we get started, I just have some thank yous, which is to Merida for bringing the rug, to Jonas Upholstery for the chairs, for this beautiful theater by the New School, and for Really Useful Media for bringing this to life through video. We, in fact, uploaded the Stern interview, which is in 3 segments, on our YouTube channel, and Charlotte Moss's first segment of hers. So if you want to find it, it's on Inside the Business of Design on YouTube, and we'll be loading each of the interviews as they come online each week. One person that I really need to acknowledge is Christine Tope, who works with me every day, and she allows me to do what I get to do and all the crazy things I tell her I want to do every day. And she has this unwavering support. So I want to thank Christine as well. This may not be the most romantic setting, but I need to tell you that tonight I need to acknowledge my partner, John Vashauskas, who tonight marks our 25th anniversary. Now, thank you. You know, I think most people think that that's a silver anniversary, but in gay years, it's actually a golden anniversary. So let me tell you a little bit about Mark Ferguson. I am proud to say that Mark and I have been working together for the last 15 years, and it's been a total pleasure in watching the firm's growth and the work we've been doing together. Mark started out going to school at Carnegie Mellon, where he got his bachelor's degree. He then went to Princeton to get his master's degree. He actually came to New York and worked for Diller Scofidio, which many of you who know that firm think, how's that possible? Mark will explain how that happened. And then he went to Parrish Hadley, where he met his partner, Oscar Shamamian, and they started the firm today is known as Ferguson Shamamian. And they have a beautiful monograph that's out now. They're probably, if not the largest, solely residential, high-end design firm in the country. So it's my great pleasure to introduce you to Mark Ferguson.
Thank you. Welcome. Thanks.
So different chairs tonight.
Yeah, a little squishy.
A little squishy, but comfortable. So the beginning. Where were you born?
South Jersey. It's close physically, but it's very far away culturally. I didn't grow up in a place that has a name. I grew up on a farm, on a fruit orchard in the middle of the countryside. And it was a family farm. So there were a few families and a cluster of barns, all stuck in the middle of rows and rows of trees. So I think, as I look back, the memory of that is something that seems to creep into design ideas as I work on large projects with large sites.
And you finally got off the farm.
Did get off the farm.
So your parents, they worked the farm? Are they true farmers?
My father was a farmer, but he was a college-educated farmer. He had a couple of degrees. He'd studied agriculture. It was his passion. The farm failed eventually, so yes, that's how I got off the farm. And my mother, also a college graduate, interested in science, but a homemaker. And, my father was very attached to the land and very attached to working the land. He loved working with his hands. He's very good at that. And I guess that's also a place where I learned how to work with tools. Mm-hmm. And again, as I reflect on what I do today, there's something of that in there.
That's great. And siblings?
A brother and a sister. My sister's a musician. She plays the oboe. She's also a school teacher. My brother, he was a bartender.
And where did you fit in the birth order?
I was first. And the first of the pioneers. It's a little harder on us, but it comes with certain privileges. And those are that you're always on the front. You're always sort of pushing the limits a little bit. So that builds a certain kind of character. Now, if you ask my wife, she'll say, Mark, your problem is that you live in your own reality, very stubborn, things always have to be your way. And I don't know if that's because I was first, but maybe.
Right, yeah. I think there's something to be said about birth order.
Yeah.
And I believe that everybody that we have so far interviewed have all been firstborns. So it'll be curious if that trend continues.
Yeah, there's a pattern.
Right. I was the fourth born, so I don't know what that says. Maybe that's why I'm on this side of the
Well,
interview.
you're scrappier, I think, at the end, right? Because
Right.
you've got all this, you're at the bottom of a crowd.
Yeah, you got to fight your way to the top.
That's right.
And we had at our house what we called survival eating. So and it wasn't that we needed to survive, but if you wanted any of the goodies that came home that day, you just ate them because otherwise they wouldn't be there. So I was telling everyone that you went to Carnegie Mellon and then you went to graduate school at Princeton, but there was a time in between. True?
Short apprenticeship, couple years in Boston. I got out of school, wasn't really ready to start work in an established firm, although it seemed to be the right thing to do. Had, I guess, a serious job, but it didn't sit right with me, and I thought that graduate school might be an opportunity to reset my career, jigger the path in a different direction.
Right. And then coming out of graduate school.
Came to New York, where else? And took a job with Rick and Liz. They had a very small practice. It was just the two of them, and I was their assistant. You wouldn't know this now, but they had one client with 2 commissions. It was the restoration and alterations to 2 large traditional houses up in Tuxedo Park. And so we worked on that for a year, and I grew impatient. I wanted something bigger. And as I was leaving, they introduced me to an old client of theirs who wanted to make an addition to, let's say it's an English cottage, a little stone house up in Croton-on-Hudson. Ernest Flagg had designed it. And I think they'd had their fill with traditional architecture. Their head was in other places. And I took on the project, finished the job, met some of their neighbors, did a little work for them. And then came to a point where I was really looking for something new. And I worked very briefly for a developer, Harry Macklow. He had an in-house architect who fed him sort of behind-the-scenes advice so he could direct his architects in the way that suited him. I think I knew on day one, maybe within the first hour, that I needed to get out of there. And I had a very good friend who recruited me to Parrish Hadley. And again, it was it was a bit of an experiment. I didn't quite know what I was getting into. Again, it wasn't an established architectural practice. Architecture was not their core business. The architects served a support function. I think I was reluctant to get back into the mainstream. I was operating on the edges.
And Parrish Hadley, for those of you who are not familiar with the firm, was mostly an interiors practice. And then some laws did change in the state of New York where it said interior designers shouldn't or can't practice architecture. Was that sort of the impetus behind leaving?
I think it's part of the story. Albert and Bunny and Harold all had a great sense of architectural design, and for them, decorating really involved an entire environment. And it was challenging to find architectural talent that would cooperate and collaborate on the design of something as simple as a room, having a place for the furniture to sit in a reasonable arrangement. And architects being very determined and really not being attentive to interior furnishings were difficult to work with. So having an in-house capability was very facilitating. And the commissions, the architectural component of their commissions began to expand. And it got to a point where Albert said, maybe we need to set this up as a separate division, its own thing, because the way an architect works is very different than the way a decorator works. And he presented that idea to me and John and Oscar, and we said, wow, it's a really great idea. We love that. But you know what? We have an even better idea. We're going to set up our own business. And Albert said, that's terrific. Go ahead. You have my blessing. I wish you luck. He introduced us to a client or two. Bunny introduced us to some of our first clients. She was very important in helping us get our business off the ground. And From there, we began to grow. And that's a very incremental process.
Right. But it's, I recently saw a picture of, I think you were in the picture, and Bunny was in the picture, and Ellie was in the picture, and David Kleinberg. And when you think about what that firm spun off, it's remarkable.
Oh, it's completely. It was a university. Everybody went through the firm, learned a tremendous amount.
So you started the firm with two partners, and for those people thinking about getting out there and starting their own practice, would you recommend having a partner?
It's not for everybody, but I highly recommend it. I really like it. You've got diversity, you have redundancy, you have, more heads are usually better than one. We spent a lot of time just talking. In the early years, John, Oscar, and I, we had endless partner meetings, figuring out how to run our business, how to make projects work, how to relate to our clients, our consultants, how to build our staff. It was a tremendous experience building an organization from nothing. And having partners to do that with was for me, it was very facilitating and confidence building. I wasn't out there by myself. Now, this isn't for everybody, because of course partners have to get along.
Yeah, that's the dirty little secret.
Right.
But that synergy is so vital to creating that special sauce, right? That you're bringing these minds together and allowing for something that's bigger than you.
You can be much faster at arriving at the good idea and avoiding the bad idea if you're in a conversation. Conversation's a great way to develop ideas, and that's what we had. We had one long conversation.
So you started out with three partners. John since left. You added somebody else. He since left. Has that sort of coming and goings of having a partner been a challenge?
It's difficult. It's difficult. Growing and shrinking can be painful. Growing is an optimistic thing. You increase the firm's potential for growth, for future growth. You become more capable. Shrinking, losing a partner goes in the opposite direction. It's a defeat. You couldn't work it out. And furthermore, it's a public relations problem that you wish you didn't have.
Right.
What's wrong with you guys? Why don't you get along? But I think having partners, learning how to collaborate, learning how to build consensus among yourselves is a skill that's really served us very well. And in fact, I think it's the foundation of our success, this ability to collaborate and build consensus, and to check your ego at the door, to bring your best ideas forward, to advocate for what you think is right, to step down when you're wrong, to learn how to compromise. I think those are skills that John, Oscar, and I learned in those first couple of years building our business.
Right. So what qualities would you say, when you look at potential for future partners, should they have?
First, they have to share your values. You have to be on the same wavelength. So assuming that you're there, then I'd say they have to be dependable, because you're going to be in some tight spots, you're going to be negatively surprised, and you want somebody that you can rely on that's going to carry their share. I'd say they have to be likable. You want to enjoy being with them. You want the people you're working with to enjoy being with them. Humble helps, because you've got to compromise at times. And then talent, of course. You want them to take you someplace that you wouldn't go yourself, to imagine ways of doing things that you can't imagine.
Right. And their ability, actually, to move the firm forward and be a rainmaker, and that all that burden doesn't lie on you or on the founding partners.
No, it's interesting. Partnerships can be built in two ways, I think. One is each partner takes on a specific responsibility in the business. So you need all three pieces to make the business whole. We started ours differently. We were three equal partners, having equal authority, doing equal work, being paid equally. And I think that's, being holistic like that, and each of you going through the same cycle of a project and working through the same set of problems reinforces who you are as a business, what you're trying to accomplish. I think if it's compartmentalized, maybe it becomes a little more mechanical. It's less,
There are firms that, there's a business partner, there's a design partner, and there's a marketing partner. And, they survive quite nicely. What I have seen in those types of firms is that it tends to be more of a commercial type practice, where they can actually have a marketing partner that's not going to show up on their project. A residential client doesn't really have that desire, which sort of leads me to the next question, which is your name is on the door. And you have, amazing clients that are, very demanding, as most clients are, but I would imagine they want one of you. Do you find that clients will request you for you to be on their jobs?
Clients will request me or Oscar if they know about me or Oscar. I think clients request the person they know, and that might not be me or Oscar. So I think it's the personal relationship. They've heard that there's somebody who can make things happen, do things in a certain way, that brings clients to our firm. We do get cold calls. It's rare. And in that case, we flip a coin on who starts the conversation.
So the practice, which is 60 people strong, is big, very big for a residential practice. What are some of the greatest challenges of maintaining a size like that?
Not losing anyone, making sure that the whole is bigger than the sum of its parts, keeping everybody pulling in the same direction. And to do that, you need what any organization needs. You need structure and you need leadership. And so we're really lucky. We have deep leadership. We've got great people in the office. And I'd say to every individual, they have the capacity to self-manage. So you don't have to tell everybody what to do all day. So that's very important. Structure, we've been doing this for a long time, so we've got some procedures and ways of doing things that have proven to work. We're always tweaking them. There's always room for improvement. I think it became easier, though, when we could tell our origin story. We had enough distance from the beginning to be able to describe who we are, what we're doing, and why we do it. And in the beginning, it's very intuitive. But it took a few years to be able to stand back, and with your help, to sort of be able to gestalt what it is that we are and who we are. And then once you figured that out, it's much easier to grow and to keep everybody moving in the right direction.
Well, we've done many retreats together, and it always impresses me that some firms you come back and like, who are all these people? And then other firms like, oh, it's you again. And you have an amazing amount of stability in your senior management team of people who have been with you for many, many years. Is that hard to keep those people?
It's work. It's like a garden. You're nurturing and pruning every day. Everybody wants to realize their potential. Everybody wants work to be challenging and interesting. At least the people that want to be leaders want that. They want a big meal. And so our job is to make a big meal for everybody. And we're very attentive to that. We work hard at that. We work as hard at making the business an interesting place for everybody to work as we do getting work done, real work done. So part of that is learning, making sure that we're always learning.
Right. So what have been some of the biggest surprises in this journey?
I guess just growing. I know that sounds boring, but I never imagined that we would have a large business. Mm-hmm. I thought the three of us would be lucky if we each had an assistant, so there'd be 6 of us all together.
Right. Yeah, now the 6 can barely fit.
Exactly, yeah.